Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Chatting with Nuts. This is episode 28, and I, as always, am so happy and honored to bring on my guest tonight, which is one of my good friends, Dr. Phlip Chase.
You can just call me Phlip. That's fine.
Wow.
Jimmy, we're good friends, so you can drop the titles. It's all good.
I mean, I even put it in the title of the stream this time, so I felt like you sent me that nasty email last time. You said, "Hey, it's Doctor," and I said, "Whoa, okay, dude, okay, bro." You cornered me in Orlando, and I didn't want any trouble.
Yeah, well, I know how intimidating I can be. So
Well, people don't realize, but I mean, there's some muscle underneath that tweed.
Oh yeah. Good thing the tweed it's strong tweed. So as much as I strain at it with my muscles, it stays pretty intact.
Custom athletic fit, of course.
Yeah. Stretchable tweed.
Stretchable tweed. It's a good market. People should invest.
Oh, and there's Mama Nutter there. Hello.
Yes, Mama Nuts is here, ready for another Friday. You're one of her favorite guests. She always tells me when I go see her. Yes, yeah.
Aw, that makes me very, very happy to hear. So yeah. But I'm sure she's nice to all your guests too. But that's
there's some Mama Nuts doesn't care for.
Oh, oh dear.
And I'll never reveal who. I mean, she does love you and Alan. That's confirmed. I can confirm that.
Okay. Well, that's good because he's here quite a lot. So
yeah, you would hope that that my mother enjoys him for how many times he's been on. But this is what, your third time on, right?
For Chatting with Nuts.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, you've been on my channel like 20 times thanks to Malazan.
Yeah. Well, we did some Malazan stuff, didn't we?
Yeah, man. I was thinking about that the other day, and I was thinking about how it was just such a it didn't seem that long. But if I look back, it was almost 10 months, and we were doing those once, twice a month. And I miss it, dude. I really miss it because I always looked forward to those. And I did a lot of preparation for those. Like when I finished Malazan, not only did my reading time free up, but a lot of the prep time freed up because I was taking notes. Oh, yeah. I was prepping for those shows, really trying to do a good job, so that people could use them as a resource and also to look back on the experience with fondness, right?
Yeah,
And also, I always appreciate like you and AP and everyone else that's come on, Joanna, Andy, everybody that came on to chat about Malazan. And, I felt like I had to do my due diligence to show up, because I was asking for so much time from you. Wikipedia for Malazan. So
I don't know about that, but they were really, really great chats, and I was so happy. Whoever was with us always, whether it was Joanna or Alan or AP or
Rhythma.
Andy, Rhythma, we had a lot of great people involved in those chats. So I had a wonderful time, and I always really, it's really cool to learn from other people, and I'm kind of itching for that next big read too. And so that's why I'm really looking forward to Wars of Light and Shadow, which we are going to be having some chats on eventually. A lot of people have been asking me, when are you guys going to start? And as soon as AP and I are done with Malazan. And that I think will be fairly soon. I'm guessing now, I'm hoping maybe early June to start with Wars in Light of Shadow. So, but I won't know for sure. It's just, I have to wait for my nemesis, and it is always worth it to wait for him. And just life gets busy, Jimmy. We have this going on in our lives, and as you know very well, it takes a lot of our time. And then most of us also have actual jobs that pay money and stuff like that. So people do get busy sometimes, and that's how it is. But it'll happen for sure.
Yeah, and everyone does get busy. Noelle's back tonight. She says soccer season is finally over, and she can watch Chatting with Nuts live again. And we have a ton. Yeah, I mean, we have a ton of returning people, and we have a lot of new viewers tonight, and a lot of people saying that this is the stream that they have been waiting for. Two of their favorite booktubers. So, people always say, oh, like, you do repeat guests. And it's like, yeah, because like sometimes people can catch the show, sometimes they can't. And there is something about this when people catch it live. And I know as a viewer, like when I watch any other live stream, there's something about it. There's something about experiencing something live. There's a little bit of fear of missing out. So it's always nice to have multiple opportunities. One, because we can talk about anything. And then two, to have new viewers in a different live environment to discuss some of these thoughts and topics. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. Aha. Well, you won't have to work too hard, Scott, to convince me to read Sun Eater. It's definitely on my radar. I hear great things, especially around here, but also elsewhere. So yeah, I'm very much looking forward to that. And somebody else had requested that I make it known as soon as I know when Wars of Light and Shadow will begin. I will definitely put out announcements about it. So
yeah,
I
and
am hoping early June-ish. So
is that when we're thinking? Okay, cool. Because
I think so.
because I'm joining you in AP. You guys
Yeah.
graciously invited me, which was
Yep.
very kind, and I got an opportunity to meet Janny down at the ICFA conference, which was just a delight. I have so much respect for her, even just off our brief conversation, and also seeing her interviews with other people. I have a lot of admiration for her passion. And anyone that's that fired up about their work, and you can tell she believes in what she's done, and she's done quality work. And Steven Erickson, for example, definitely endorses that. And some of the other readers that I've known that have experienced that series say that it is one of the best hidden gems in the genre. So the fact that you guys all graciously invited me, I'm so appreciative for that. And dude, I'm excited. I'm really, really excited for it.
Oh, I think you're going to be a great part of the conversation, and you're going to be enriching the experience, I know, for me. So I'm happy to have you along. And as you say, Jenny's just got a great personality, and she's one of those people that you meet and right away, this is somebody who's not only got a lot of energy, but I think a lot of integrity in what she does. She puts everything 100% into everything she does, I think. And that's why I'm excited. I hear from some of my viewers who have read or have started to read Wars of Light and Shadow, and the praise is really high for this series. So I think it's going to be a great next thing after Malazan for us. So I'm really hoping, and I also think that she'll be willing to sit down with us and have some conversations with the three of us as we go through the series. So I think that's going to be, I hope that'll be some really great content for folks who want to follow along, or maybe hear about it and want to hear a little bit more about the series before committing to it. But I think it's going to be a really fantastic time.
Yeah, and I feel like, we're kind of announcing this thing, we're doing this thing, and that shows just a lot of confidence, right? Because sometimes you'd like to sneak in book one, make sure everything's good, right? Like before you commit to something. But the little bit that I know of the series, and I've read a couple pages here and there, just like kind of flipping through and getting an idea for her prose, and I found it to be pretty wonderful. So I have a lot of high hopes for that series and just her writing in general. And we're always looking for like that next big fantasy series, right? And once you do Malazan, you've done Wheel of Time, A Song of Ice and Fire, you start going through, and I know that there's tons more, but I've also read all of First Law, The Dagger and the Coin, any other the Daniel Abraham stuff I still need to finish. But this one feels like think about how many decades there are, Philip, in fantasy and sci-fi, that publishing wasn't what it is now with marketing and social media. Like, how many gems just went under the rug, whether it was a bad ploy by marketing or a bad publishing window. Like I know around 9/11 was very tough for authors. And I will always wonder, like, what got through the cracks, and I think this one could be it.
Yeah, perhaps. I mean, 9/11 you mentioned, but also I think COVID was also
Certainly
not a great time to be trying to we're allowed to say that word now, right?
Yeah, we were always allowed. I think that was a boogeyman of YouTube. And if they're gonna take my $2, it's fine.
Yeah. So, but I do think there have been some rough times recently for authors and getting the word out. I don't know why Wars of Light and Shadow hasn't been more marketed and promoted. I really think there's a story there, maybe. But I intend to, especially, of course, if we love it, and I anticipate that we will based on what I've heard and what I've peeked at, I'll be shouting about it, and I'm pretty sure you will. And of course, AP is, he's going to bring on the super awesome analysis that he always does, and I think that's going to really help folks to appreciate the series even more. So yeah, I think it's going to be for definitely on my channel, it's going to be the central event for the next year or so as soon as we get to it. I hope in early June.
Yeah, I think, I mean, it's definitely like my primary big series that I'll be reading. I always read a plethora of stuff, and I stress myself out trying to do that just because I like to have a little bit of diversity to put out there. But I mean, this is kind of the central big series for the remainder of the year for me. And we have that special opportunity possibly of chatting with Janny, which, we got that opportunity with Steven Erickson. And
Yep.
people will say, oh, well, that means that will give you a bias. And I actually disagree a little bit with that. I think that we're like so lucky to see the insight because you can actually ask the author like what their intent was behind something, even if you don't like something, right? Like you can actually bring it to their attention, and then they might have a way of framing it that you hadn't thought about. And the cool thing is, it's not just a conversation we're having privately. We'll be doing it in front of everyone. And that gives the viewers and the commenters an opportunity to also talk to the author. So it's really this big bridge of bringing people together around a piece of work that has been happening over decades now.
Yeah. I mean, it's her masterpiece, no doubt about it. She's put so much into it, including the art on the covers. And I have the hardcover versions with those beautiful dust jackets. And she's talented in more than one realm. She's got some really fantastic art on the covers of those books too. So,
and she's in shape, man. Like,
oh my goodness,
she's sturdy. Yeah.
Yep. And rides horses and all kinds of stuff. So I mean, yeah. So a lot of that stuff. Yeah, it's gonna be great, Connor. It's gonna be super.
Yeah, I think I'm just excited I see other people gonna try it out with us, because I think getting a group of people together to try something that's brand new, and there's not a lot of expectations as far as knowing what's coming, right? Like even like A Song of Ice and Fire, first time readers know something about the series, and with this, I mean, it just feels like a mystery, a brand new mystery for us to solve. And
absolutely.
I think the three of us can get it done. I think we can make it pretty entertaining. I will be the everyday guy who can barely read, and it'll be perfect.
Well, if I'm not so sure about that. I can be the goofball, and AP can be the wizard, I guess. So yeah.
This is in fact not the BookTube boxing match.
I'm afraid, Christian, that would be a very short Chatting with Nuts if this were a boxing match. So.
Yes, Phlip has a mean left hook. I can't get around it. Well, I mean, we're talking about writing, and we're talking about pouring passion into something, and I would be, at fault if I didn't ask you, how's things coming with the book, man?
Yeah. Wow.
Some big stuff, huh?
Yeah, I saw. Thank you, everybody in the chat there, for your questions and comments, and just your support. I'm almost it's a little choked up because it's really it's something I've been working on for many years. I have kind of fallen into this really beautiful community here, and to just have people expressing interest in it is already, I feel, I mean, it's not even published yet, but I feel embraced, and it's really great. And I feel just very grateful for that. The process is going really well, actually. So the pitch is going to happen in a little under 2 weeks. And
Whoa.
Yeah. So I'm really excited for that. My agent is going to be, basically, I don't do anything at that point. It's just all in my agent's hands. And he's a fantastic guy. He's very knowledgeable. He's got some big titles, that he's agented before. So he knows what he's doing, and I have complete faith in him. And in the meantime, what I've been doing is I've asked a few authors to read my book, and if they like it enough to write an endorsement, a little like blurb, I guess, that the kind of thing you would see, I guess, on the cover of the book or something. And that's been going really well so far. I actually have one blurb already, and I'm really honored by what that author had to say. Mark Lawrence has been really kind in being very public about the fact that he's started to read my book, and that he thinks he likes it.
Which is a relief, right? That's great.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually nerve-wracking. I got to
I'm
tell you,
sure.
it's exciting and so nerve-wracking at the same time to hand your baby over to someone that you respect so immensely, like Mark Lawrence is definitely one, and the others that I've asked are all authors that I have a huge amount of respect for. So it's nerve-wracking. And then Mark, I think he understood how nerve-wracking that can be. So he reached out to me privately, and he also put out these tweets. And he asked me beforehand too. Is it okay if I, tell people I'm reading it? And I was like, yeah. So he's been very, very generous that way. And yeah, but to have him endorse the book so publicly, and tell everyone that he's enjoying it and that he thinks a publisher is gonna grab it.
Yeah, that's the one I saw, and I honestly, it kind of like caught me off guard, and I was like, man, it's gonna happen. Like, it's gonna happen for my friend.
I mean, you know what? The book's going to be published one way or another. So I can say this publicly. If I don't get a publisher, that could happen. You don't know. The publishing world is a tough place these days. So if it doesn't happen, so be it. I will self-publish. I'm prepared to do that as well. So I wanted to try this route first, though, and because I know there's a lot that the publishing industry can do in terms of marketing and support, and just they have capabilities that I, as an individual, wouldn't have. That's obvious. If you guys haven't noticed, I may not be the most slick marketer.
But you're genuine, and that goes a long way.
Yeah.
One thing I that's encouraging is that you are sending these things out to authors that aren't. And for instance, like, I know Mark Lawrence is not going to put things out there that he doesn't believe.
He's a very honest person.
Very.
Yeah.
Yes. And when I saw him tweet that, I was like, okay, like, that's the cosign that I was kind of waiting on, and I'm sure there'll be many others that go a long way. But I knew specifically that he doesn't just do that for anyone. So
well, he said that 99.9% of the time he doesn't say yes to these kinds of requests. And I think it's okay for me to say this. He decided that he would give this one a try because he has shared a few of my videos, and not actually necessarily related to his book. So I've made videos about, why I read fantasy and stuff like that. And those are videos that he actually in the past has shared and on his, Facebook and that sort of thing. So he's been supportive in other ways too. It's just a super nice guy. I don't know if there's any other author out there as successful as he is, who's doing so much to extend a helping hand to authors who are just getting started, and self-published authors. He does that whole SBFO.
I mess up the acronym every time. I
know I'm missing a letter there.
Yeah.
But it's an annual competition where all these self-published authors can enter, and then they narrow it down until there's a winner from, all those submissions. So, I mean, it's really exciting. And he actually wrote me a message too. I think this is okay to reveal as well, but he wrote me a message after he had basically said to everybody, okay, I'm reading Phlip Chase's book, and I'm taking a chance. A little bit later, when he actually started reading the book, he wrote me a private message saying, well, I started reading it, and I'm actually really relieved to tell you that yes, you can write. And in fact, it's actually excellent. And it's like, buddy, wow, I'm way more relieved than you are. Trust me. So, yeah.
It's one of those things where I think about, I daydream about reading your book. But no, seriously, I do think about whenever, it comes out or there's arcs given out or whatever, and I'm given the opportunity to read it. It's like one of those things where, like, I mean, dude, you're like one of my best friends, and it's like, like how does one go about it? But the thing is it's not even necessarily me worried that I'm gonna like it, because I almost feel like it's assured that I'm gonna like it. Like, I trust in you.
Yeah, I don't want to raise expectations too high, you know.
No.
But I do think that well, first of all, it would be an incredible honor to me for you to read my book, and under any circumstance. I am actually hoping. I don't know how many arcs I'll have at my disposal, but I am definitely you're on the short list of people I want to have an arc, Jimmy. So I would hope that you would do me that honor of reading an arc. Actually,
I would 100% do it.
Okay, fantastic.
And I don't even accept arcs, so that's how you know.
Wow. Okay. Well, then I do feel very fortunate. So, yeah, and the other people who have read, of course, AP Canavan has read the book, and I owe him so much gratitude and thanks because he is a wizard. Everybody, he actually is a word wizard. He's a storytelling wizard who.
Yes.
He's amazing. And I have to say, you know, I had come to a point where I felt like, okay, this book is as good as I can make it. And I'm ready to go. And then I fortunately met AP, and Alan's giving me 1 star. Yeah, I mean, he's AP's amazing. He found ways to help me make it even better. And I'm so grateful for that. And that I had, I think it was good for me to be willing to do that as well. You know, he is a professional. So yeah, I mean, it was just that. And, you know, that was certainly, I think, an important moment in the whole evolution of the story and everything, was to just have AP's input. And more recently, I asked the brothers Gwyn, Ed and Will, to check it out. And I had special reasons for that. One of them is, I feel like those two are, you know very well that they're extremely well read.
Oh, yeah.
That it just in general, but, you know, they're also very well read, specifically in stuff that has been an inspiration for me and the whole evolution of creating this world and this story. So, yeah, I just felt very strongly that these two would get what I'm going for. They would get what I'm doing without much effort. They would see it right away, I thought. And based on what they said in their April wrap-up video, where they were kind and generous enough to mention it, I was like, yep, they get it.
It's awesome.
So, yeah.
I mean, I think that an important note, and I've said this prior, but I always want to put this out here when we're talking about you know, writing and writing a book and stuff, is that, you know, on BookTube, there are a lot of people who end up becoming writers. There's a lot of people who do this, and I don't think that's a big shock, right? Like, that some people that spend a lot of time reading would want to maybe give an attempt at the craft. Like, I don't think
that's the majority of us actually
have written something, right? In fact, you know, I know Alan has written before. Sarah, you know, we talked to her about that, and not everyone's goal is to maybe be published or to take it to a professional level or anything like that. But I don't think it's a big reach to say that a lot of us do attempt to write. But the interesting thing about you is that you have been a writer far, far longer than you've been a booktuber.
Oh, way longer.
And I want to put that distinction out there, because there is a certain stigma when it comes to, you know, booktubers releasing books and people feeling like, oh, it's happening again. You know, you were such a different case than that.
Maybe. I mean, I don't know if I would distinguish myself that much. You know, we all have that love for books.
14 years is a long time, though.
Well, I mean, actually 18, but yeah, who's counting?
18. I mean, you know, 18. I mean, I was going to say they could buy a pack of smokes, but you actually can't anymore. So you have to be 21 now, I believe. But your book would have graduated high school if they did all their homework. So and I don't say that to disparage anyone else that's on BookTube that wants to become a writer after the fact. I have absolutely no problem with anyone leveraging the platform or anything, but you are different in that regard, and you have been a writer for a very long time, and I think it's important to acknowledge that. I think it's important to acknowledge the fact that this is something that you've been working on for almost 2 decades, that you've done your due diligence, and now it's amazing that you have a platform here on BookTube and that you have a community around you. And I think that is going to be a really big help not only in just, getting your book out there, but also getting proper feedback and then building on it from there.
Yeah.
It's
Oh, yeah.
actually an incredible opportunity.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the writing process. Look, guys, don't become a writer if your goal is to be wealthy or to make money. We do all of this. For me, it's all my career. Okay, my teaching, my love for literature is wrapped up in that. It's wrapped up in the fact that I'm on YouTube doing
Yeah.
this. And of course the fact that I'm writing, it's all wrapped up in the same thing. That's why I personally don't mind those booktubers who end up, after having a channel for some time, trying their hand at writing. I think it's great. I would encourage everybody to try.
I agree.
But yeah, you're right. I mean, I've been working, maybe I'm an idiot because I've been working at this for so long. And it's something that it just sort of, I think it started when I was a kid, and I read Tolkien and I was like, wow, first of all. And then I was like, I want to do that. I want to do that for people. I want to write a book someday that when people finish reading, they'll feel cleansed. They'll feel this sense of awe, they'll feel this.
Yeah.
That's what Tolkien did for me. And that was just sort of planted in me, this idea of, can I do this, and I went about it in a kind of a strange way, which is, instead of reading modern fantasy and understanding the modern fantasy genre, I first went and learned Old English and Old Norse and all kinds of other stuff.
You did it the hard way.
I did. I went the scenic route. And did a PhD in English literature and all this stuff. And I'm not sure that's actually the smartest thing to do, but that's what I did. And I can't change it now, but later when I started writing, I realized, oh my God, I actually have to learn how to write like a real modern book here too. So that was a process as well. And that involved reading a lot more recent fantasy authors, so not just like 1,000-year-old poems and stuff.
I think it's a pretty awesome opportunity. Even as a community, that we've all got to know you and get to kind of join you on this journey that has started long ago. And I got the opportunity to talk to Steven Erickson. I've talked to Christopher Rocchio, and I love picking their brains about the writing process. And I think it can be just absolutely invaluable for people who are watching that are writers or want to be writers or have ever thought about telling a story. But the one thing that I've always thought about, and this is how I used to think about in the gym, right? Or wrestling. A lot of times you talk to people after they've made it, or they're already massively jacked from the gym. And you say, hey, what are you doing? Like, how do you work out? Right. But you'll find
I get that all the time when I'm in the gym.
I'm sure, dude. When the tweed starts ripping on the back. Yeah, definitely.
Yep.
But when you talk to those people, a lot of times I always tell people that it's a bad idea to look at what their current routine is, because they've already made it, and things change once you've made it. It's what they did to get to that stage, the beginnings of that. What did they mess up on? What paths could they have taken differently? And what was the secret sauce to get them to where they are?
Yeah.
And that was very, very helpful for me whenever I was trying to discern the information that I would take to become a better lifter or a better wrestler or wherever it might be. So I think that it's a pretty amazing opportunity that I had the chance to ask you this, because even though you've been writing this thing for 18 years, you're kind of at the beginning of a new stage of your journey. So my question is, what were some of the pitfalls you would tell people to avoid when creating your story? And also, what are your main tips for getting started?
Okay. Wow. Let's start with getting started, I guess. And then we can talk about pitfalls.
Sure.
You're going to hear this every time I think this question comes up. And much more experienced authors than I have given this answer, but read a lot. And we got that covered pretty well around here, I think. And the other thing that I would say in addition to that, and again, you're going to hear this advice, but it's worth saying again, read broadly. Don't just read. If you want to be a fantasy author, don't just read fantasy. You need to read outside of fantasy. You should read other kinds of literature. You should read nonfiction. it will make you a better writer. It absolutely will. So it helps to pull yourself out of that world for a bit, I think, and give you a perspective that you wouldn't have had otherwise.
Yeah.
And that will affect your story in mostly a good way. A lot of my writing also came from my actual just journeys in life. I was lucky enough to be able to travel a lot when I was younger. And I think that had a huge impact on me and who I am. And the story eventually that I told, the fact that I lived in Nepal for a time is absolutely central to what the book became. Although it's not about Nepal or,
Right.
but that is just, it's in the book in a way, if you know what I mean.
Oh yeah.
So if you have an opportunity, I would say travel is a great thing to do, to enrich you, to give you experiences that you can draw from when you start your writing or when you do your writing. So that's a big one too, I think. So read a lot, travel a lot if you can. That's been difficult the last few years, I know.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Hey, hello. Yeah. So yeah, and just getting started is start writing. Don't feel ever like I'm not good enough, so I can't start. I made that mistake myself. I put it off a little too long. I think I didn't start writing until I was 32. I didn't start this project.
I'll be 32 this year, so I'll get started.
There you go. Get started. Yeah, I mean, you've got to write or you won't get, it's like training. How are you going to get better in the gym if you don't go to the gym and work out? It's
Fair.
not going to happen. Writing is exactly the same. You just got to do it. Don't think I'm not good enough yet. You don't have to show anybody, but just sit down and do it. Have a time of day. If that's the kind of person you are, if you can do that when it's your sacred writing time, and that's what you do it, even if it's half an hour, preferably like an hour or 3, but you've got to make that. You become your habits. You absolutely become your habits. And I don't think that you can, I don't think you can become a writer if you don't make it a habit.
Yeah.
I really don't. I don't think you can be an intermittent writer.
I'm a big believer in habits, like very big.
So you've got to make it a habit, and you're continuously improving yourself, continuously improving. And you do that again by reading, and you do it by read on books about writing as well. Those are helpful. Those helped me in the past.
John Gardner.
John Gardner is a big one.
Yeah.
But there are even just like textbooks that are available from like creative writing classes and stuff like that.
One thing, I don't mean to interrupt, Philip, but you told me about the John Gardner book when we were down in Orlando together. And I also want to talk about that trip because we actually haven't got to talk about that yet. But on this topic, obviously that helps you with writing, but folks, I got to be honest, reading these type of books like On Writing by Stephen King and all the craft with Le Guin, I can't remember, Steering the Craft, is that right, or something like that? It's something
could be.
about,
I'm not sure.
Either way, when you read these books about these authors of how they're doing their stories, it makes you a better reviewer. It makes you be able to look at the writing and say, oh, that's what they were doing.
Oh yeah.
And the thing that I've come across, and I think people can probably even tell it from my reviews, is that a lot of stuff's more on purpose than you think. The period's actually there for a reason. They ended the sentence there. They ended the chapter there for a reason. They said it in this way for a reason. And there is just so much out there that can help you understand and appreciate. I think that's a better word. Appreciate writing in a different way. And in my opinion, in a more deep way. So I would recommend everyone that's listening to this, even if you're not a writer and you're thinking, well, I'm just a reader. I actually think that like John Gardner's book specifically was phenomenal.
Yeah, absolutely. I think John Gardner's is, for me anyway, still the best place to start, or maybe not the best place to start necessarily, but the single best place in terms of some of the writing advice that he gives there.
Yeah.
But yeah, for sure. I mean, you've got to do that. You've got to do your homework. You've got to be willing to work at it. There's a Welsh saying that it's steady tapping that breaks the stone. You're not going to become a great writer overnight. There's no way. You've got to make it a habit. It's got to be a part of your life. So it's just, that's how you do it. There's no other way, in my opinion. And it's not about, yes, I mean, talent helps, but it's way more. And that's what Derry was saying, I think, with the Pratchett quote there. Talent's great, but it won't get you anywhere if you don't work. And every time, I mean, it's the tortoise and the hare all over again, right? Every time the person who works and works and works at it is going to surpass the talented but lazy person. There's no doubt about it.
And also, there are going to be people who are X factors that have a talent and they don't have to work as hard, and maybe they might even do better than you. But I don't think it's about that, right? It's about doing better than you yesterday. I'm a really big believer in that, and that comes a lot in like jujitsu or Muay Thai. Like, you look at this other person, like, man, they're just so much better than me. And it's like, well, yeah, but 6 months ago me would lose to me today, and that's how I treat every skill. Is just. Is there any improvement? Even days where I think there is none. You had those bad days. I'm sure in writing you sat down some days and couldn't get a good sentence out, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, absolutely. There are days, but you're going to have days when it feels like a real chore. Rob, you're going to have days where it feels like a chore, but you've got to make yourself do it, just like anything else. And then you're going to have days when eventually, for me, it's starting is the hardest part. And once I'm into it, it really helps when I'm writing to go over what I was doing the previous day and tweak it a little bit. And that's my kind of immersion back into the book.
You said that in Orlando, and I believe Steven Erikson kind of agreed.
I think he did. Yeah.
And that you totally changed my perspective on that, because everyone tells you don't edit, don't edit, don't edit. So I would just like vomit, come in the next day, vomit again, and just continuously do that. And it makes, I'll be honest, it actually makes editing a lot more cumbersome when you haven't looked at this stuff since you got it out of your thought cage.
Yep. And ultimately too, you get to a point where it's a joy. It's a lot of fun. As you're doing this, it is a lot of fun. And it's weird. I'm sure you can relate, and all of you out there can relate to some activity that you just do so much that it becomes, you're in the zone when you're doing it.
Yes.
And I've had times too, days when I write and I look up and I feel like 10 minutes have gone by and it's like hours,
I mean, that's how you can tell it's going well, I think, or that you're at least enjoying your time.
Right? Yeah. How many passes? Oh my goodness. To tell you the truth, Colin, I don't even know. I stopped counting at around 10, I think. So a lot. And that is through the entire book. So probably too many times. A lot of authors would probably say I'm an idiot because I kept editing these books over and over and over. And I think I made them better. And sometimes it's just a little tweak here, it's like an obsessed, sculptor trying to just get that one wrinkle just right, but I honestly don't know the answer to that. So how many have I written so far? Actually, I have 4 complete books. I have the trilogy more or less done. I've had AP look at the first 2. So I feel, and I've edited in response to his suggestions. So I feel like those are, like watertight at this point. Although I'm sure, an editor at a publishing house might say, no, I want you to do this, this, this. And I'll say, okay, unless I feel very strongly.
And AP is probably better. Let's be honest.
I don't think there are too many editors out there that are as good as AP.
Yeah, we have to stress that. Like, AP is not just an editor. AP is very well respected.
Yes.
Like, it's actually absurd that we have access to him to talk to him on YouTube. I mean, it's just like, you don't see that very often. And we're so fortunate that Erikson kind of pushed him to do this, because
he's a gift to our community.
Yeah. He's like legit status. Like, yeah.
So I have 4 written, John, and 2 that AP has read and helped me to improve, and 2 that the 3rd book in the trilogy he has not yet read. I'm hoping I'll be finished my last Passover early in the summer, and it depends on his schedule too. But I will definitely want AP to look at number 3. And then I actually have a standalone sequel already written that I haven't talked about much, but
I love it.
There's a sequel already written. So yeah, I won't be like George Martin and not finish the series.
Oh, here we go. I can't get away from it.
Sorry.
I'm only kidding.
Or Patrick Rothfuss.
Yeah, boo him. Also, some people got my Thought Cage reference. Appreciate that.
Of course. Yeah, we've been reading Gwyn enough to get the Thought Cage. Yeah.
Noel says, Jimmy, you were on a vacation with Erickson. Man, you've missed a lot, Noel. You've missed a lot.
Oh, yeah.
There's videos of me, Phlip, AP, and Erickson all together in person.
Yep, they're on my channel. But yeah,
and they're incredible.
Yeah.
Shot says Erickson actually says it's hardest to finish. Most never finish writing the story. Isn't that true? And that's what kind of drove me to finish my short story, because finishing is a talent in itself. And once you're done with it, what do you do? And then the editing process. I mean, there's just so many. I mean, writing's really hard. Like at the end of the day, it's really difficult.
Yeah, it's very hard, but it's also extremely rewarding, and you get better at it as you do it.
Yeah.
You know, I've been at it, and actually, it's funny. My wife likes my fourth book, The Standalone, the most. So maybe I'm getting better. Even I don't know, but
I believe it.
You keep working at it. You keep working at it, and you get better. So that's kind of some of my advice there, Colin. Is once again, it's steady tapping that breaks the stone. And yeah, I think we've been kind of covering that topic here for a bit, but just do it, follow Nike's advice. Just do it. You will never get good at it if you don't do it. And even if what you write, you look back at it and you don't like it and you don't do anything with it, it's okay. You got better at it in the process. So, and the other thing I would tell people is don't be afraid to show your writing to people. And it's great to show it to your loved ones who are only going to say nice things. Unless
you have nice loved ones.
Yeah, unless you're Joe Abercrombie. Apparently his mother was really hard on him. So, but most of us have loved ones who are going to say, oh, that's great. So that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that, because to have that affirmation is, the guy shows up after we said all these nice things about him. How do you like that?
Oh yeah. Everyone quiet down. Yeah. We didn't praise him.
Stop saying nice things about AP now. All right. So, but yeah, I would say show it to people. Show it to people. Show it to people who love you and will say nice things. But also, if you can, show it to people who will be critical. Yeah. And you don't have to listen to everything they say. But that's very important. It's weird, but I think a writer has to have a mixture of pride and humility. You have to have enough pride to write the thing, but you need that humility to listen to people and be willing. It's hard. It's very hard to delete your writing and change it. And you feel like this is your baby.
Yeah.
You have to be willing to do that. You have to be willing to take the knife to it.
Would you also say that there's a piece you have to be willing to stand up for something that you think is right in your writing?
Yep. I think so.
Remember me and you talked about, I shared my story with you and we kind of talked about combat, right? And you were talking about how combat is much more of a brutal thing, right? It's a lot more realistic to kind of like in the regards of Abercrombie and the way that he describes it as such a terrible thing, right? And it's grunting and it's heaving. And I came at it from a perspective as someone who loves martial arts, that I find a lot of art in it and beauty. Yeah. And those are two conflicting viewpoints of the same thing. I think they're both valid. I think what you said is totally valid.
Wait, sorry, Jimmy, were you describing one of Abercrombie's sex scenes there with the grunting and heaving?
Those are also brutal and uncomfortable as well. And wonderful. Combat and romance scenes are very similar,
especially if you're reading First Law. Yeah.
Derry had a question, and she said she wants to know if it's truly a thing. She said, "Are the parts of your books strongest where you were joyful writing them?"
Ooh, I want to say yes to that, but it's funny. I try to be so immersed in the story that I'm trying to feel the emotions of the story, and I'm picturing those scenes. And I feel sometimes like the scenes that have, for me, this emotional resonance, I hope that they will have that for a reader. And so the moments when I'm writing and I'm actually crying at my own writing, which sounds ridiculous, I know.
No, I get it.
I'm hoping that a reader will experience that as well. And so I think so, Derry. I think so. I would say yes to that. I want to say yes to that. So.
Whenever I wrote my short story, I wrote a letter at the end from one character to another. And I got very teary-eyed when I wrote it because I put myself in the mindset that I was actually writing it to my best friend, like
oh wow, that's
essentially
wonderful.
my brother, right? And like that's my favorite part of the story because like it couldn't have been any more like true to what I was feeling at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Tall Guy reads, I like this question a lot. He said, did you find it hard to maintain focus while writing? Did you ever get another idea that you thought was maybe more exciting and had to force yourself to stay to your main story and not wander?
Okay, let me read that again. Hard to maintain focus while writing. Oh, I see. Yeah. So I'm definitely a planner. The architect, I lean toward the architect side of the writing spectrum as opposed to the gardening side. I had started by, first thing I did actually was I drew a map because I love maps and people know that.
I did too, dude. I did too.
So I wanted to see the world before I wrote in it. So I drew a map, and then that map did get modified a bit here and there as the story progressed, but pretty much that's what I splattered there on the page is what's there. Then I wrote a kind of a mythology and a history of that world, which no one will ever see.
No, never.
No, I don't think so. I'm not going to do like I don't know. I doubt it anyway, because I didn't write it to be published. I wrote it to exist, in my head or wherever. Mm-hmm. So I wrote about languages. I wrote about religions. I wrote about the past few thousand years. Just so I had it all settled.
Just a few thousand.
Yeah. In a very bare bones kind of way. And I don't want you to think that I have 8,000 pages of history or something. But it's there. I made up. I didn't really do what Tolkien did. I didn't make up entire languages, but I did enough to fake it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So yeah, and then I started the story itself. After that,
so you did a lot of world building. Like you did a lot of.
I did a lot of planning. I had everything outlined from the beginning of the book to the end. And then, though, to answer the question, as I was writing, the story pulled me in places I did not know it would do. It pulled me. I suddenly realized, no, I need to go here or I need to go there instead. And so it did evolve in ways that I had not outlined from the beginning. So, and I think you have to be willing to listen to the story as well as listen to people who know well. So
yeah, I think deciphering is a skill in itself. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
AP, a Critical Dragon, has to say, don't tell Phlip this, I won't. But his first two books are really good, and I'm really looking forward to seeing them published. I will deny ever saying that.
I'm going to put it on the dust jacket, Professor Fireballs.
Please.
Philip's books are really good. Professor Fireballs. There you go. And that is pretty damn high praise in my book. So
yes.
Or it's going to be on my book. So yeah.
I hope there's booktuber cameos in the background of these novels. I would.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, there should be now. I mean, I wrote the books before I even knew BookTube existed. But you can always revise. So yeah.
Yeah. Did you find yourself creating characters? Says, I told you not to tell her. I'm sorry. It's live. I messed up. Did you find yourself when you're creating characters in your world that you had them all kind of mapped out from the beginning, or did you kind of did characters pop up as you made your story?
Both. Yeah. Okay. So I had, in addition to describing the world, I sort of wrote a few paragraphs about each character. Mostly not like every tiny little character, but for the most important characters, I had already kind of made attempts at writing down descriptions of them. The kinds of, I mean, you have to almost be an actor while you're writing,
Yeah.
I literally will sometimes go in front of a mirror and try to make, facial expressions to try to, does this sound right? And I'm looking at my face and I'm trying to, how do I
I
describe
used to do that
this?
for wrestling. I used to,
Really?
yeah, it
Okay.
was something Roddy Piper told me to do. He said, just go into the bathroom, flip
Yep.
off the lights, and when you turn it on, be someone else.
Yeah. I mean, it's whatever it takes,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it just, you inhabit the character, and you act the character. And I do think that, as much as it kind of creeps me out to say it, I think there's a little bit of me in every character in a way. So including including some of the really awful characters in the story.
I don't buy there's an awful bone in your body, Philip.
Well, I don't ask my nemesis. He knows all about it. So
I like this question a lot from Dart. It says, weird question. What kind of public your books are not for may not like it? So like who an audience that may not enjoy this.
yeah,
This is a strange question, but I do like it.
I like it too. I think it's actually kind of a really important question, really.
Yeah.
So I think a general fantasy, adult fantasy audience, that's the audience I have in mind. And I think it would be. I like to. I really like what the Gwynn brothers said actually in their video in the April wrap up. I would never have said it myself, but I like the way they put it there. Where I do think, if I'm going to be completely honest, I do have some classical fantasy influence. I mean, Tolkien is just in my DNA. I can't help it.
Yeah.
But I also like the fact that what I think it was Ed who said, it's like reading. It's like sort of like being in Tolkien's world, but with David Gemmell characters. So,
I mean, that sounds interesting to me just from the jump.
yeah. I mean, because it's not classical fantasy in the sense of, it's definitely a more modern fantasy, I feel, in terms of, I would never call it grimdark. I would not call it grimdark at all, but it is not fantasy without repercussions. Let's put it.
You're not pulling any punches, right?
I'm not pulling punches. Yeah. I think. But yeah. Yep.
Very cool. Criticized Reviews, thank you so much for the 5 spot. That's very generous of you. Said, hey, I just wanted to thank you guys for getting me into fantasy. I'm about to start Wheel of Time and Berserk soon. Random question,
Cool.
top 3 TV shows ever. Philip, let me guess, MASH, Dallas.
Leave It to Beaver.
And Leave It to Beaver.
We Criticized Reviews. We had this little discussion the other day on Steve's channel, Steve Talks Books, and I was cruelly mocked for my lack of knowledge of contemporary television because I don't watch TV. I did watch that show a few years ago, Game of Thrones.
Oh, I've heard of it.
I actually watched that. More recently, I watched Wheel of Time as well, so I'm not completely out of it. But I don't watch television much since I was a kid, really.
With the rabbit ears, right?
Yeah, and the tinfoil on
the rabbit ears.
Of the rabbit ears, yeah.
I remember that.
So I'm probably the worst person to answer that question. Top TV shows, but MASH would be one of my answers, actually. Yeah, sorry.
Well, I have a bit of a more modern answer, I guess, and I would say it is Game of Thrones. Yes, even though season 7 and 8 weren't very good, I still think it's amazing.
Yeah.
I would say Game of Thrones, Breaking Bad, and then I would probably have to say The Sopranos. Those are probably my 3 favorites, which I don't think are too controversial. Well, Game of Thrones might be, but I don't really care what everyone else thinks of it. By the way, the House of the Dragon trailer was awesome. Westeros is back. Yeah. I thought it was phenomenal. Matt Smith looks ridiculously good as a Targaryen. And I'm really excited for that show. I'm like trying to decide if I really want to make a video about why I'm excited for it. Cause I just read Fire and Blood. I have a lot of things I want to talk about with it, but it's one of those things.
Why would you not make that video?
Well, Philip, there's a thing called, and it's not my people, but it would attract a lot of people who aren't subscribed to me. And then I have to read every comment, saying that George sucks, or
Oh.
he's never going to finish the book. Season 8 wasn't good. And it's like, oh wow, thanks for letting me know. So it's a lot of noise, and I like making stuff for the audience I have, and of course I want to grow. But when you do a video like that, you're going to see a large amount of people that don't watch your content regularly come in, or maybe not even ever watch another video of yours again. A good example of this is Lost in Discovery made a video when he was talking about, like, is it too late for A Song of Ice and Fire to be finished? Like, does anyone actually want this?
Yeah.
And he just made a video because it was on his mind. And if you go to that comment section, I mean, some of the things that people say about George in those comments are so bad, like disgusting. And it's just like, I don't necessarily know if I want to invite that. But here's the thing. I'm going to do episode reviews for every single episode for the House of the Dragon. I'm not a TV reviewer, but this is something I care about a lot. And I'm also going to be doing live discussions right after the episodes on the Bend the Knee YouTube page. They're in A Song of Ice and Fire podcast. And really one of the biggest reasons why I have a channel at all right now is because of those two guys. So I'm excited. Like, it's just whether or not I want to make content talking about why I'm excited, because like, does it really matter why I'm excited? I think everyone knows, right? So
yeah. Well, my guess is you would get some of those people as well if you do it, an episode review. But
and I will, but that's something I really want to do. Like, I want to be able to look back on that and have that. So I guess at some point I'm going to have to face the crowds, and that's fine. Yeah. It's not like the biggest deal in the world, but you know how it is. Like, you did the Wheel of Time stuff. I think you have an idea.
Oh yeah. AP and I did the Wheel of Time show together, and most, don't get me wrong, most of the comments were very polite. Even people who did not like the show, most of them were very polite about it. But there were a few very just sort of rage commenters who never commented on our channels before or after.
Yes.
So that was definitely there. We experienced that. But
so you know what I'm talking about.
Like, I do.
It's a different crowd.
But I will watch the show too. I will be watching the show in August. So yes, I will do that thing with the internet where you watch a TV show.
You'll get out the rabbit ears. It'll be fine.
Get out the rabbit ears. It'll be good. And I am actually, I'm trying not to get too excited about it because I don't want to be disappointed. But I don't think I'm going to be disappointed. It looks like they're putting some effort into this show. So.
Oh, certainly. I mean, it's 20 million an episode, and here's like the thing, right? We can't make these massive conclusions from a trailer. There are things it does tell you, like one, the editing, the sound mixing of these things, and we've seen teasers and stuff for other shows that haven't had all of those variables like being done to the best of their abilities.
Yeah.
What I will say about the trailer is, one, obviously makes me excited because I'm a huge fan, but on the flip side of that, I have no concerns watching those trailers. I didn't look at one costume and go, that looks a little funky, or the sound didn't sound right. Like, what's up with that? There's nothing about the trailer that made me go, uh-oh. And knowing that the problem with the show was the writing, that is the one variable that we don't know yet. But I do know it's not D&D. So I feel like I can get, I feel fine being excited. Because
how involved is Martin in this show?
He's pretty involved, but he's not writing like full episodes or anything like that. But he definitely was. I mean, he was working with them. And I have to imagine, even though George has stayed relatively positive about the ending of the show, I don't think he wants that to happen again. And I think that HBO does not want that to happen again. That's probably why D&D are nowhere to be seen in HBO. Like, they're just gone,
Well, you've read what is it called, Fire and Blood, the book that this is based on. I actually think, interestingly, because that's written as a kind of a pseudo history, and it has that dryness too. It's not like A Song of Ice and Fire. It is really a different tone altogether, and the narrative voice is a sort of a boring old historian. I actually think that'll lend itself to adaptation pretty well in a way. It'll be easier in a way, I think, to adapt from Fire and Blood than it was from A Song of Ice and Fire.
Yes, I agree with that. And the cool thing about this is that there's really two narrators in Fire and Blood, and one is telling the truth and one isn't, or maybe it's a mix of both. It's probably a mix of both. Just like natural history, right? Like, we have one account over here, and they clash, and it just so happens that they're also on opposite sides of religion or politics. So there's that cool thing that he played with in Fire and Blood, but we're actually going to see it on screen and get some answers. Like, was it the Maester or Mushroom that were correct in this. So as a fan, that's kind of cool.
That is very cool.
And I agree with you. I think it lends itself to adaptation. I do. Chris has reviews, another 5 spot. Thank you. He said, if you like The Sopranos, you should give The Wire a try. Probably, in my opinion, the best written show. Yeah, I've actually watched The Wire. It's probably my top 10 shows. I hate season 2, but I really like all the other seasons. And I live like 25 minutes from West Side Baltimore. So
wow,
I just doxed myself. No one come to my house. I shouldn't have said that out loud. Vess also asked if I've ever tried Castlevania. I actually have, and I really, really enjoyed it. I just suck at keeping up with television shows. Like, as much as I make fun of you, Philip, I actually don't watch TV much either. The only thing that I got into recently was this show called Severance that's on Apple TV Plus. It's amazing, dude. It's sci-fi. It's like sci-fi, but not like spaceships and such. It's just like kind of a futuristic speculative fiction world that we live in, right?
Yeah.
And the whole idea, Philip, is that when you go to work, something flips in your brain and you have a work self and a non-work self.
Oh, okay. It might have been you I heard talk. Were you talking about this with someone?
I talked about this with you and on the chat, and then Steve said that Michael Fletcher had written a short story that sounded very similar.
Okay. That's why this is ringing a big bell here.
Yes, this show, I mean, I can't tell you folks how amazing I think Severance is. There's theory crafting going on. I mean, there's a ton of stuff, but it is wonderfully acted. It has the intimacy of Breaking Bad, but has the mystery and intrigue of like something bigger, like a Westworld. Oh my gosh, it's amazing. Oscar said all the offensive comments that YouTube hides are for that Song of Ice and Fire video of mine. Yeah, me and Christian talked about that. He was like, mate, it's rough.
I think I get more upset when I hear about my friends and nice people like Christian getting comments like that than I am by getting those comments myself, because I just hit, if they're really awful, I'll just block the person. But that stuff slides off of me at this point, but it does upset me when I hear that my friends get those comments. But
yeah, honestly, hearing just some of the stuff, that you guys got in comments for your Wheel of Time videos, and I know AP, didn't necessarily feel great after some of those, and like that's the worst. Like that really bothers me. And generally I laugh things off pretty 99% of the time, but everyone has a day where you let something get to you that shouldn't, or get annoyed by things. But I do try to not let it bother me too much. RJ, thank you so much for the 5 spots. Said the last episode you guys did was one that gave me the final push to start BookTube. Wanted to say thank you to you both. Well, you're doing a great job over there, RJ.
Yeah, I mean, RJ's got a great channel. I love watching his videos, and that's so sweet of you, RJ, to even say that, to mention that. This is a wonderful community. This is a beautiful community, and we all raise each other. We all raise each other up, and I think that's a wonderful thing. So
yeah, absolutely. And I don't know if you know this, but did you know RJ is like 8'2"?
I've heard that he's a big guy. Yeah.
He's a giant.
He's a tall fella. Yeah. There's Alex out there too, who's got the Tall Guys Reads channel. I don't know which one of them is taller.
Dude, I've been telling him, a tall guy reads. He should do every video where the camera cuts off at his nose. Like he can't fit, you know what I mean? Like, and then so like, it's like he can't even fit into the frame. He's so tall. It would have been, he could still do it. I'm telling you, be great.
Of course,
his
how tall I am, right? From eigth. Right?
Yeah, you're a hobbit. It was funny though, because I think people think I'm shorter because I have all this space up here. It is funny how that, I thought, honest to God, I thought you were like 6'4".
Yeah, well, so everybody, I am 5'10", 5'10". That's the real deal. So I don't know why I look taller to people in videos. Maybe because I'm thin.
Your camera is slightly up. There's not a lot of space above your, like people think I'm like 5'8", which is.
Oh yeah, but you're 6'1" or so, right?
Yes, 6'1".
Yeah.
Ultra Chad. Yeah, that's me. Dude, how crazy is it that we hung out in Orlando?
It's so wild.
It's so wild.
It sometimes feels like a little bit like a dream, but it was such a great time too. And I will say that it did feel surreal to see you in the hotel lobby and AP and Steven Erickson all at once. The timing was bizarre for me because I walked in there.
It was bizarre for me. I was there for 2 hours. I couldn't find anybody.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, this is there's scholars here and authors, and I'm just walking around in a Lord of the Rings t-shirt. Like, am I supposed to be here? And I see you, so I'm going to sneak attack you as soon as you're done at the front desk. And then as soon as you turn around, Steven Erickson and AP walk up, and AP cut off his hair. And I'm like, this is all so much to take in.
Yeah. It's a ponytailless AP and Steven Erickson, and it was like, whoa, this is surreal. And then I actually saw them first, and then I saw you. So, so I avoided the bear hug, I guess. But
I was hiding behind a pillar too, so I looked very suspicious in public. Like, there was definitely hotel employees looking at me like, who is that weird large man crouching? Because I was like trying to peek to make sure, and you actually turned around at one point because I think you were asking where stuff was, and you were like,
oh yeah, because I'm usually lost wherever I am. Yeah.
You did look lost.
Yeah.
You had that far away look in your eyes.
Yeah.
And then, folks, we did the worst thing ever to poor Phlip. So Phlip is a vegetarian. So me, AP, and him and Steven Erickson, we're all hanging out. We're like, oh, let's get some food. Well, where do you guys want to go? Oh, we should go to a barbecue pit shop. We took Phlip to a place that specializes in selling dead animals.
Yeah. Well, the French fries were pretty good there.
They were.
Yeah.
They were.
Yeah.
It was just so, it was just so funny.
But what was cool was there was that moment of surrealness, but then I would say after 2 minutes, it just felt very natural to be with you guys. And the whole time we were there, and it was funny because Alan came later.
Yeah. And
I could see it in him when he saw you and me in the hotel lobby. It was, and he even said it out loud. This is so weird, but because that's Alan, right?
Yeah.
But I think even for him, it just took a little bit of time to, and then it felt very natural, So it's really cool to realize that these friendships carry over into the physical realm. Yeah.
Oh, dude. I mean, I literally was like kind of in a slump after going home. Like me and you were together all the way to the end because we went to the airport together.
We literally went to the airport together.
Yeah, we went to the airport. Our driver did not care to drop us off anywhere that made sense. So we had to walk.
I had to walk a long ways after that.
Yeah. We hugged and said, it was great. Hopefully this isn't the last time. And I went to wait on my flight, and I was like kind of sad. I was like, man, I just had such a good time and talking with you and AP and Erickson and Alan and Joanna. But then Joanna is actually waiting for her flight next to me. So I ended up talking to Joanna and her husband for like an hour.
Oh, that's so cool.
Oh, it was great. It was like such a good pick me up, it was an encore. And I felt like
the first time I'm hearing this. I didn't know that you met her at the airport like that.
I was reading The God Is Not Willing. Like, I was sitting in the terminal, and then she just comes up. I'm like, oh, it's Joanna. And we had an excellent conversation. And
in that huge Orlando airport, what are the odds that you and she would see each other again there?
Which was a madhouse, by the way.
Yeah, it was a very full, huge airport.
An absolute nightmare. There were so many people going to Disney. Yeah. But I didn't get to talk to Joanna very much because she had only come for breakfast, right?
On Saturday.
Yes. And then I said, man, I wish I would have got to talk to her more. But then seeing her at the terminal, I got so much quality time with each of you. Talking to Alan. I mean, Alan is just like, I have so much love for you guys. I just wish I would met you all 10 years earlier. It would have been great, right?
Better late than never, my friend. So
it's true. Like you said, we found the tribe, right? Found our tribe.
We found our tribe. We really did. And maybe you wouldn't have even liked me 10 years ago.
Honestly, you wouldn't have liked me 10 years ago. I was just a total meathead.
I doubt that very much. AP, the feeling is mutual. One should always meet one's nemesis in real life to take the measure of the man, even if he is a little bit taller. Just a little bit.
Steve said, have either of you ever been recognized in public? I have for wrestling, but never for BookTube.
Yeah, no, I don't think that's ever happened to me. I know it's happened to Mike from Mike's book reviews. Somebody at a shopping place or something shouted out, "Oh, it's Mike," or something like that. But never happened to me. No. So
I have one patron who lives near me, and I did meet him for coffee, but that was like a pre-organized thing.
Yeah.
I used to get it. I've got it like a handful of times in wrestling, but that was years and years ago. They wouldn't even recognize me now.
Huh. Yeah. Yeah.
Phlip was a jock 10 years ago.
Well, I still play tennis. Does that count? Yeah.
I think it does.
Oh yeah.
You did spy a tennis court when we were in Florida.
I saw one and I was tempted to teach you a lesson or two there, Jimmy.
I wanted to challenge you to some hoops. That's what I wanted to do.
Well, I can play basketball, but I got sort of traumatized by the fact that, and so I do have tall people in my father's side of the family. There, a lot of them are. My dad is 6'2".
Oh wow.
Yeah, and my uncles are a similar height. I have cousins who are like 6'5". And the chase thing to do at a reunion was always to play basketball, and I'm Mr. 5'10". So
yeah.
But I'm a very fast guy, so I could get around there, and it wasn't just ordinary basketball. It's more like contact basketball. So.
Physical game in the paint.
Yeah. I
respect that.
Yeah.
Stuart wants to know. Stuart also runs, and he said, "When's your next marathon, Philip?"
Cool. Yeah. No, it's Stuart. It's just tennis for me these days. I kind of blew out my hips by overtraining. I was going for a 3-hour marathon and did it in training a couple times, but I really overdid it. So I got a bad hip injury, and I sort of had to stop doing that. So, yeah, I'm not sure that running marathons is really the best thing for your joints long term, but I loved it when I did it. It was just incredible.
Yeah, and hips are something. It affects everything. Sitting, standing, literally everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was supposed to meet Noelle and a couple of my patrons at Game of Thrones Con in Vegas, but it was back in February where we had the Omicron spike and everything. So we didn't. They canceled it, unfortunately. But yeah, I was really looking forward to that. So kind of the the makeup prize for that, a consolation prize, was ICFA.
Wow.
And still getting to meet some people that I really wanted to meet. So that it was a nice consolation prize, but I was so disappointed when that con ended up getting canceled. I still went to Vegas. And
you did make a trip to Vegas, didn't you? Yeah.
Yeah, I basically went to Vegas, came home, and then went to ICFA.
Wow.
Which was excellent. Do you think next year we'll go and we'll actually attend more panels?
I definitely want to go next year. That's a yes. Will I attend panels? If there's a panel that catches my fancy, I will go to it. Maybe we should even do a panel, Jimmy. Maybe that was you and I and AP and Joanna and Al, whoever, all of us we could talk about doing a panel.
Oh no. Could you imagine? The authors, everyone like, this is a reviewer panel. Yikes.
Look, I think we have plenty of great things to say about the books. So
I think we could definitely do a Malazan one for sure.
Oh yeah. We could do a Malazan panel. Yeah. No problem. But I think it's a very interesting to me topic is the increasing recognition of this platform of YouTube as a place to discuss literature and engage in these kinds of discussions that we all do. There's a kind of freedom to it here that you don't have in more formal venues that makes it more fun. It makes it more exciting. And I think that people shouldn't knock what goes on here. I think that YouTube we're just beginning to see the possibilities of what people can do on this platform. You could have an entire university run through content creators on YouTube. Yes. You really could. I'm not joking. You could do that. So end of October. So see, there you go.
We got some time.
Got some time to think about it. But I really feel very strongly that this has such rich potential, this place that we are. And it has the entertainment, but it also has the analysis. So there's so much that we could be doing here on this very platform that excites me. And so, yeah, I love it. And I think, people there's enough open-minded people. That conference is a really special place too, because I come from an academic background where I have gone to conferences. Most academic conferences don't feel like ICFA. ICFA has a very different tone to it because it is an academic conference with all these authors running around there and these creative
we sat with Stephen Donaldson, didn't we? And just
and
had dinner and chilled out. I mean, it was just it's kind of wild, and it never felt like a big thing, meaning that like you had to watch yourself and who you introduced yourself to or anything like that. It was just very relaxed. It's a bunch of people with common cause to be there and that were willing to like engage in discussion.
Yep. And I think, I don't think they would want it turned into a conventions type thing.
Right. Yeah.
We're all running around in costumes and
no.
There is a degree of formality to it. I don't want to give the wrong impression. And there are a lot of very, accomplished scholars there. And that's really the foundation of ICFA. But I think there's a certain open-mindedness there too. So they probably would accept a few of us crazy booktubers, in a panel or something.
I think so. Calvin says, I think one of the things about this small corner booktube is how it feels like a group of friends, and I'm glad I'm at least a tiny part of it. Thank you both for your amazing content. I appreciate that. Thank you.
It's so true, Calvin. Yeah.
AP says ICFA is the most definitely a conference and not a convention, but it is very welcoming and has a real heart. Yes, it is definitely that, right? And I did attend some of the panels and they were very informative, and I love hearing people who have a lot to say about important topics in publishing and really just the genre in general. It's just amazing when you go and there are scholars in fantasy and sci-fi and they are having these kind of discussions. It exists, and there's another avenue with YouTube to expand that and to get more people involved in the conversation, and that it's not so much of a silly thing, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's exciting. It's exciting to me. And that's another thing I have to thank AP for. So, I wouldn't have known about ICFA.
That's right.
If it hadn't been for AP. So he wasn't here when we said nice things earlier, but I will say thank you, AP, for for getting us to go there.
He is the gift that keeps on giving.
It was a great experience. One of the best of my life, actually. So yeah.
Yeah, I the connection that I have with everyone was so amazing, and like me and Alan talked for a very long time, and I told people, I said I think I like Alan even more in person. Which he told us. Remember, he told us, he said, "You're not gonna like me as much in person." And I'm like, totally opposite.
So funny. Yeah. Speaking of Alan, I don't know if he wants me to say this, but I'm going to say it anyway. He is an incredibly talented actor. I don't know if he hasn't made this. He's talked about it before, so I'm comfortable mentioning this. He's talked about that one-man show that he does.
Yes.
You remember that? It's called An Iliad.
Yep.
And I had the chance to watch a video of it. I don't think he shared it yet or anything, but I have to tell you, Jimmy, I got chills watching him do that performance.
I believe
I was so amazed, and I'm not surprised that he would be talented in that way, but wow, seeing him on that stage and reciting lines from the Iliad and doing the play. It's a more modern play, but it has little lines here and there from the original poem, I believe. He could confirm that, but he is really good. He's really good.
That dude could do anything he wants. He is talented in a multitude of ways. And there's been about 3 people in my life that I've met, and I just said, like, oh, they're special. Like they have talent that, we talked about talent earlier, right? But the 3 people in my life that I've met that I just thought were so talented, and I thought the sky was the limit for them. One, unfortunately, I grew up with, he's not doing so well. One is on WWE television right now, and he was someone I kind of came up in wrestling with and was just a good friend of mine, and I love him dearly. and he's achieved all types of success. And then the other person's Alan. And I never expected in this corner of YouTube or whatever we do to find someone like that. I mean, they're kind of unicorns in a way. But man, Alan is just he's one of a kind, man. He's one of a kind. And I think that the best portions of Alan's life are still ahead of him, because as he gets more comfortable and puts himself out there, I think that he's going to have a lot of amazing opportunities. And I don't just say this to kind of pump up my friend or anything. Like I genuinely have an appreciation for that guy that I can't quite put into words. When I came back from Florida and I was talking about this, like I told my wife all this in the car. I was like, there's just something about Alan. He just has like a draw to him. I got a lot of love for that guy.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah.
Let's see. I got to ask my favorite question these live streams. What was the last book you fell asleep reading?
That's funny. I think almost every book I read, it happens, because I read lying down on my bed. So if it's late at night, that's pretty much the last thing I'm always going to do every day is read for a bit. And sometimes I'm doing the thing, Jimmy, where I lie down and the book hits my face, and I realize, oh, I guess I'm tired.
It's time to call it a day.
Yeah. Or usually I catch it before it hits my face, because you kind of do that thing where you like wake up. But so I think pretty much every book I read, it happens at least once or twice.
Yeah, mine is The Damnation Game by Clive Barker, because it is the bedtime story I'm reading, which is weird because it's really horrific. But I'm reading it literally like one chapter at a time. It's going to take me forever to get through it, but I'm not in any hurry. So I'm really enjoying his debut novel. I know he had short stories and stuff, but that was his first novel he wrote back in 70s or 80s, I think.
Huh.
Have you read any Clive Barker before?
No, I know people who read Clive Barker, but I have not read Clive Barker myself.
Yeah, Baron from Your Brain on Books is very big on him.
Cool.
And I wanted to check it out because I love Baron's channel. And yeah, Barker is an interesting dude. He's not afraid to get weird at all. I mean, he writes more horror, but he has written fantasy as well, like Weave World and such. So he's one I wanted to get into.
Nice. What else have we got there in the chat?
Let's see. Bald Booktuber Scott says, Jimmy, did want to let you know I started The Road on audio today and really enjoying. Looking forward to your chat with Baron. Yeah, I'm going to be chatting about The Road next Thursday on Your Brain on Books. Yeah, this is actually something I wanted to bring up to you, Phlip. You've read Cormac McCarthy, right?
I've read The Road.
What did you think?
Oh, it's a great book. I mean, it's a very gritty book. It's a very tough book, but it's a great book. Very stark. Not a fun read. So
that's true.
Don't read it to cheer yourself up. But I found it very engaging. And they made it into a movie too with Viggo Mortensen, right?
Yes, in the movie. So I actually watched the movie years ago.
I haven't seen the movie.
It's one of my favorite movies of all time.
Okay.
And I read the book, and dude, I love this book so much. In fact, I want to say it's my favorite non-fantasy book ever. Like I did my wrap up, but No Country for Old Men might be even better. The Road is more emotional, which makes it hard to top. But No Country for Old Men has some of the most tense moments of life and death I've ever read in any book. I mean, just like, and part of that's due to McCarthy's prose. I mean, McCarthy writes like a madman, and I love it. No quotations around dialogue. He didn't name his two main characters in The Road. Like, these are things that people either love or hate, and I happen to fall into the camp of loving it. Did you enjoy his writing style?
Oh, he's a great writer. He's no question in my mind. Very distinct style. I think he's kind of he must have read a lot of Hemingway and Raymond Carver and that sort of thing, I would imagine. I don't know that much about, I've only read The Road though, so I'm probably not the best judge, but it's a very well-written book.
I've seen people say Faulkner and King. And like that combo makes a whole lot of sense to me. And, I think Cormac McCarthy is also a really good example of something that we don't see a lot in fantasy. And I know that you've read a lot out of the genre, so you probably know this too. But like prose outside of fantasy and sci-fi tends to be a lot more stylized, meaning I mean, King's also a really great example of this, and the way people, he misspells words and puts things in wrong orders on purpose.
Yeah.
Anna Smith Spark, is that her name? I
Yes,
always,
that's correct. I think. Yeah.
I've never read her stories. I actually own them, and I really want to. But I've also heard that her prose is very stylized. And
Uh-huh.
Mark Lawrence wrote a review on her book, and he was like, "I know a lot of people read this and say the writing's terrible." I actually think the opposite. I think the writing is very stylized and personalized to her, and that makes it amazing. But I understand that people in the genre haven't experienced these types of things.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Um,
sometimes it's a question of just what we're used to.
yes, yeah. And
Yeah.
also, like, if it is highly stylized, it can bounce off you, right? Like, that's a totally fair thing to happen.
Yeah.
But to bring it back to Cormac McCarthy, I literally think that he's like one of the most talented people I've ever read. Like, if someone said he's the best author of all time, like, I wouldn't even bat an eye, because if you can go away from all that structure of semicolons and quotes, and then you can get me to read it and understand it, I think that's that's an accomplishment.
Yeah. Yeah. His willingness to experiment does pay off, I would say.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Uh, Calvin says, Philip, I'd love to
Oh,
hear you
yeah.
talk more about your time in Wales. I'm from Cardiff, and I love your enthusiasm for the Welsh language.
Oh, fantastic. Well, diolch yn fawr iawn,
Oh, of course. I have no idea.
I just said thank you very much.
Oh, of course.
But yeah, Calvin, I was in West Wales for the summer that I was 19 and turned 20. And I was there specifically to learn Welsh. And I was in Lampeter is the anglicized version of the town's name. But in Welsh, it's Llanber Pont Steffan. So, but yeah, in Welsh, you have these double L's that sound like the name. We would read it Llewellyn, but it's actually Llywelyn. You have this like, if you're not giving somebody a shower when you're speaking Welsh, you're doing it wrong.
That's so ridiculous.
But no, it's a wonderful language. It is. Oh, that's funny.
I talk about prose a lot, man.
Yeah, no, it's a beautiful language. I love Welsh. By the way, it is one of the languages that inspired one of Tolkien's Elvish languages. It is also just beautiful in and of itself. I love the culture there in Wales too. It's something I read a lot of history before I went there to try to understand the place where I was going to spend the summer. And I spent a year learning the language myself before I arrived.
Wow.
And I had tapes. Yes, I mean cassette tapes back then. It was medieval times. So, yeah, I got there and they put me in the advanced group of Welsh speakers.
That doesn't shock me at all.
When I got there, because I had spent all that time and I was good enough, and we were forced to speak nothing but Welsh while we were there, and so I was very fluent in Welsh for that period. Unfortunately, it's extremely rusty at this point because there aren't many people in New Jersey who speak Welsh. But yeah. So I love the place. I'd love to go back to Wales someday. It's just a beautiful place. One of my favorite parts of the United Kingdom.
Yeah, I've never been, but I've always wanted to go. I'd love to just spend like 6 months in Europe, to be honest. I don't know how realistic that is at this point in my life, but we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, that was definitely one of the experiences I talked earlier about traveling and
Yeah.
There's a big part of my book that takes, I think, some inspiration from that Welsh or Celtic, vibe. And one of the languages of that world is based on Welsh. So, but I'm not like Tolkien where I actually made an entire language. It's just enough to fake it. So, yeah.
Yeah. I feel like all my traveling is like small town US, from wrestling. And that's like, there's a part of me, like, I love fantasy, but I also would like to give my hand at just a good old fashioned American fiction novel. And there's some events that I can think of that I would like to write about, but I think writing from your experiences is also, probably a good piece of advice, at least getting started, right?
Well, Jimmy, when you write your novels, having that experience in the ring is going to be an important part of it, in whatever form that takes.
Yeah.
Whatever form that takes. I can't wait to read those novels. I think they're going to be brilliant. I really do.
You're too
Because
kind, my
I'm not
friend.
just saying that to be nice. It's also what we were talking about before. It's a matter of work ethic. And I feel like you're somebody who's going to just put your nose to the grindstone. And when you decide you're going to do something, you do it, right?
That it has been my MO.
Yeah.
Right now it's about what would have to come off of the of the slate, right? To fit it in, because I can't do anything half-assed. It's just not something I can do.
Yeah.
Um, and I don't want to take away from any of this, right? Because I love this stuff so much. You know, the best part about BookTube actually is the fact that when I look at things in life that I put a lot of time into, I always say, what's the exit strategy? Like, how does this come to an end? Right.
Hmm.
And I always had a tough time
Man, you
with
think ahead, don't you? Yeah.
I do, because I think it's really important to stop while you're ahead, or like while things are good. And in wrestling, I never knew how it was going to end happily.
Huh.
I just never saw that happening, and I was actually pretty correct. I was very correct in that assumption. But when I think about like BookTube and you know, being a part of the reading community and stuff like this, is I don't see an exit. You know, like you could do this the rest of your life. Like, and
Yes.
that's what makes
Yeah.
this so valuable to me. Is that it doesn't feel like something that has an expiration date.
I agree. I
It
agree.
would not be impossible for me to have this channel for 40 years.
Yeah.
Is Puppy in the story?
I don't know why she's trying to jump up on the table. So maybe she wants to say hello to everybody.
That's an
But
adorable pup.
that's Belladonna, everybody.
Belladonna. I love it.
She's named after Bilbo's mother,
Of course she is.
right? Yeah.
How adorable.
I don't know why she's wanting to get up on the table, but okay, good
She
girl.
just wants to be a part of the show. I don't blame her. Everyone's clamoring, you know?
I guess so. Yeah.
Ben Brown wants to know if we've read Blood Meridian. I have not, but it's my next McCarthy book, and I'll try to fit it in this summer.
I have not read Blood Meridian. I've only read, that's Cormac McCarthy again, right?
Yep. Yeah.
So I've only read The Road. Yeah. Oh, manga. I have not yet. I'm going to try some manga eventually. I promise you. Just to see what I think. I mean, I grew up on comics, so I feel like it would be very natural for me to, I know that they're not the same, but what I mean is the visual element of storytelling is something that I believe in, because I became a reader because of comics. And when I say comics, I mean mostly Marvel and DC when I was a kid. So I'm definitely not opposed to reading manga. It's just a matter of finding a time in the schedule to do it. But I will eventually, and I'm excited to do it. And I know I have plenty of friends around here who can help me out.
I've really come to love that medium so far. And you know what it is? It feels like, and this is one of the reasons why I really like fantasy and sci-fi, is that like you just see crazy premises and ideas. And the variety is, there's so much, you know, and manga feels that way. And some of the storytelling choices that some of these creators make are just so wild. That it makes me want to continue to dive into that medium. So I think you'll have a good time once you get to it, especially since you like comics. Like I could see you not having as much of a jarring experience as I did, because I've never really read comics.
Oh, you never read comic books?
It's never done anything for me, really. But now I'm going to reassess that eventually. So
okay.
John's Book Corner says McCarthy's prose is absolutely beautiful. I think No Country is the fastest I've ever read a book so tense. Yeah, I think I read it in like 2 or 3 days, and it was like my third priority book. I usually don't read a lot of books at once, but lately I've been doing it, and I don't really know why. Because here's what I say, Phlip. I say I'm going to read a little bit of each book, and you know what I end up doing? Reading a lot of every book, and then having no other free time. That's what happens.
Yeah, I tend to be a one book at a time kind of reader myself.
I was about to ask you that, because I know that you don't do any audio, that you stick to the paper books, physical reading. But
I'm old, Jimmy. That's all there is to it. Yeah.
Well, I personally prefer that myself, but there are some times where audiobooks are just so good. For instance, The Warlord Chronicles by Bernard Cornwell by Jonathan Keeble, without a doubt, makes the story better, in my opinion. In fact, you haven't read those yet, right?
No. So the only Bernard
Yeah,
Cornwell,
Cornwell.
right?
Yep,
Yeah.
Cornwell.
I've read is the this was a long time ago. I read the first couple maybe of the Anglo-Saxon books.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um,
Last
so,
Kingdom.
yeah, and you're talking about the Arthurian ones now, right?
Yes, and if you do, I'm going to challenge you for it to be your first audiobooks.
Oh, okay.
I
I
c-
was going to do something that I'd read before, like
well, that's a good idea.
First Law or maybe some
Ooh.
Dresden, because I hear those are really good narrators.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
so I think I would be comfortable. Otherwise, I'd be scared that I'm missing stuff
Totally fair.
as an unpracticed audiobook listener. So, but yeah, maybe I could ease into it that way. So
Yeah, I think I think that's a good idea, actually, doing a book that you've already know. I mean, um, I've listened to Roy's A Song of Ice and Fire books. I don't know how many times, even though he's not great. Uh, you know, there's like a nostalgia with him because I've listened to him so much, but he's a terrible narrator. um, he mispronounces names and such, but I do think that going, like, especially getting into it. But man, I would love to hear your opinion on Jonathan Keeble narrating. Some people say he sounds like Monty Python,
oh,
which is
fun.
fair. Some people don't like that. I happen to love it.
Huh. Huh.
Someone said your pup looked like a hound of shadow.
Yeah, she's a little bit smaller, but she is she's part beagle and she's part lab. So, and someone was alluding to the fact that that's called a bigador. So, yeah,
Is this the male bigador? I see.
yeah, this is the
Beautiful.
mythical bigador.
Stuart
Yeah.
says, have you read The Count of Monte Cristo, Philip? And if so, convince Jimmy he'd love it.
So the only book by it's Dumas, I think, who wrote The Count of Monte Cristo, I believe, if I'm correct. And someone in the chat will correct me if I'm wrong, but I read the Three Musketeers, which I think Jimmy would enjoy. And so I haven't read The Count of Monte Cristo except in a comic book form when I was a kid. So I can't actually make that argument, Stuart, but I will say that I'm confident that Jimmy would love the Three Musketeers. So
Okay, I'll put it on the TBR.
yeah, it's a classic, absolute classic for a reason, and it's a lot of fun. You know who would really love? I'm sure he's read Three Musketeers would be Alan.
I was about to say probably Alan.
No doubt about it.
Yeah.
It would be right in his wheelhouse. I think if he hasn't read it, I'd be shocked.
I read Sheep Farmer's Daughter by Elizabeth Moon last month, and I think Alan would love that. It's like mercenary fantasy from a female perspective, and it's so good because Elizabeth Moon was actually in the military, so she gets it. You know, it's not just someone writing it because that's the story they want to make up. Like she lived that, and it really comes out in the day-to-day of the mercenary band, and I just think it's really excellent. For anyone who's interested in that. But I immediately thought of Alan. I was like, Alan would love this.
It's funny. Yeah.
Connor, thank you. He said, I just finished Berserk Volume 3, completed the Black Swordsmark, so I can start watching dudes talking manga streams.
Ooh.
Yes, join us over there. It's a blast. I'm doing it with my very best friend of all time, Andrew. And we're new. So if you're new, it's great because a lot of times we don't know what we're talking about. So it's nice to have other people in our corner.
Oh yeah, for manga, yeah. I might have the same issue, AP. I don't know.
Let me tell you what. When you start reading, someone send you a political cartoon or like a little panel thing, I've been reading it backwards because of manga.
Yeah, you can train your brain. There's plasticity there still, AP. You can do it.
Oh yeah, I end up spoiling those.
Yeah, because you read the end first.
Yes, it's the worst.
Yeah.
Oh man,
that's funny. Yeah, reading manga means you spoil all your political cartoons when you read them here, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, and James Marsters from Spike.
I've heard that.
Buffy is the narrator for Dresden Files.
Yeah, that's why Dresden might be a good choice for me. Although I want to read. I'm only on the 5th book, so I would have to read through all the books before I start audio booking as a reread, I guess. So, but
yeah,
I will try it.
Me and Alan have been reading Dresden together, so we've been doing them on audio, but I also had to have the physical books just because I didn't want to miss anything, especially like with Dresden. Like there's a little information that's starting to come up now that I'm a few books in that I feel is important to remember. So I don't feel as good just kind of like letting it rip and trying to catch it all as I go. So it's tough. I do a lot of immersion reading. I did almost all of Malazan as immersion reading, just
You
like
told me
listening.
about that. Yeah.
Yeah, I know some people have like issues with it because like their brain just wants to kind of either do one or the other. But for me, for some reason, it really helps, especially with difficult names in fantasy. It's been very helpful with the Dandelion Dynasty by Ken Liu, which
Interesting.
Phlip.
Is that going to go on my TBR? Is that
Bro.
Yeah.
Listen, okay, here's the thing. So when we talk about well-realized worlds, this has to be Dara has to be one of the best realized worlds I've seen. And Grace of Kings is very much like a prologue setting up like the past, right? Setting up the world. So it moves in like very big, broad strokes through the first half of the book. But I'm in book 2 right now, and I'm about 70% through. It is probably now, depending on how it ends, it might be my book of the year so far. I think it's the best political fantasy I've ever read, without a doubt.
Wow.
This is so. Here's the thing. This is
wait,
one of those.
Wait. Isn't the Song of Ice and Fire political fantasy?
It is, but A Song of Ice and Fire has a lot of other stuff going on, right?
Okay.
The thing about Dandelion Dynasty is it's literally about the dynasty. I mean, it's about what it takes to rule a kingdom. But then when the story gets into its fantastical elements, it is so cool. Like, I just love it. But this is a book where, you know, people like say, I love politics in my fantasy. This is the test, because it is truly about the schemers. It's told from a third person omniscient, so you get all of the information.
Cool.
And what you lose in that, as you could imagine, you do lose a little bit of the mystery. So for instance, in the Song of Ice and Fire, from a limited third person perspective, we kind of get shocked when someone makes a big political move that's out of the norm for their character, because we don't see inside of Peter Baelish's head, for instance. Well, in this, we're seeing all of the players, and we're seeing everything they're thinking. So you have the foresight to know that this character you love is about to get screwed over. And it actually makes this sense of dread and tension about how they're going to react. So you lose a little bit of the mystery, but I think that you get to pile on the oncoming dread. And also, sorry, I don't mean to monologue, but
go for it. I'm enjoying this.
This is just something really interesting. And I think Dune does this very well with the third person omniscient, is that it's arguably more difficult to write politics from third person omniscient, because you have to make sure all the puzzle pieces fit, because you have to walk through them all. Whereas you can kind of hitch on the fact that maybe that guy knew it, maybe he didn't, in limited perspective. Right. So one, I think that the third person omniscient perspective in this political fantasy is very impressive just to accomplish. And two, it's very different from any other political fantasy that I've read. I really have an admiration for the Dandelion Dynasty and how much nature plays a role in the world, not just in the fact that there's animals and flowers and stuff like that, but the way the people are actually interacting with one another is constantly drawn in metaphor to nature. And they have technology, because it's kind of, they call it silk punk. Like, they have aircrafts, and the aircrafts, while still very elementary, are, you know, they're like a bird, right? And there's a very undertone of nature, kind of like Tolkien did, you know, like green is good, right? In Tolkien's worlds. I feel that in Dara, which is the world in Dandelion Dynasty. It
sounds really beautiful.
It is beautiful. And Ken Liu's writing, especially in book 2, I feel is just awesome. The first book is a hit or miss for people, because it's a little bit of a distance narrative and covers a lot of time, but he's doing a ton of legwork so that he can then drop into the perspectives into people's heads a little bit more frequently. And book 2 is a much more traditional pace, I think, to what we know and love in fantasy. And I can't speak highly enough of those books. And when I'm reading them, I keep thinking about UNAP, and I'm like, oh my God, I would pay matinee to see UNAP talk about the themes that are explored in this book. It has a deconstruction of sexism that I've never seen, and actually kind of like bait and switches you a little bit with it, while still holding female characters accountable for detestable actions that they take on their own will. Fascinating stuff.
Cool. Yeah.
Sorry,
I
that was
mean,
really long.
no. I enjoyed hearing about it. We'll be certain to read it someday. It's interesting to hear you talk about the. People always talk about book two or middle book syndrome, but
Yeah.
I think you could talk about a book one thing where there is a certain amount, and it's a skill really to be able to world build and character build in book one
Yeah.
and lay that foundation without people noticing that that's what you're doing. And it's hard to do. And great writers, like Robin Hobb is one of the very best. But
Mhm.
I always feel like the first book in so far the two trilogies I've read there's been some world building and some character
Yes.
building that have made that for me, and I see the skill in every step of the way, so I'm along for the ride, but it is definitely laying that foundation for the story to build on later on. So uh
Yeah.
yeah.
And I will say, Leo, if there's anything, like, he does info dump at times in book one, but in his way of building it, it feels like a history in some ways. Like, it
Uh-huh.
kind of feels a little bit like Fire and Blood, but not that dry.
Not that dry. Yeah.
Not that dry.
Yeah.
But he's also a wonderful short story writer. So what he will do is introduce a new character and then give them like a short story backstory, essentially, like in the chapter. And it's always so good. And he does, and Erickson actually does that a couple times in Malazan as well. We meet a new character and then we kind of see what maybe they went through in the flashback or something like that. Not necessarily a flashback, but them thinking about things that they went through. So yeah, I'm really, really high on the Dandelion Dynasty and Wall
Cool.
of Storms.
Wait, how many books are in it?
So it was supposed to be a trilogy, but he split the last book, so it's a 4-book series. The
He's
fourth book,
pulling a Tad Williams, huh?
he's pulling a Tad, and he's going to be releasing his final book next month in June. I know some people who have had the arcs, and people are saying that it's as good. A lot of people think book 2 is the best, but they're saying book 4 is actually even better than book 2.
Wow.
So that's in it. I mean, if this quality continues, it'll be a top 5 series for me without a doubt.
Wow.
Like without a
Okay.
doubt. Yeah.
High praise. High praise.
Yes, Ken Liu is fantastic. He's also a very intelligent person. I think he's been a lawyer, a software developer. He's done a bunch of stuff. I mean, the guy's brilliant.
Life
So
experiences definitely help, when you're
yeah,
being a writer. And I'm telling you that wrestling thing, man, that's gonna make your books. It really is. So
well, I do have an insight about what it takes to build some sort of character, but also the
yeah,
story of a struggle is kind of all we do.
yeah,
And there are steps to that I think I could follow and play with and make it my own.
yeah.
So I do think that does lend itself to help me out whenever I decide to write.
I mean, you could. There's so many directions you could go. Just thinking out loud. What if you built a world where there's a sort of a gladiator class at the center of this world, and one of your main characters is one of these gladiators, and you could take so much from wrestling and put it into that setting. That would be so cool if if you were to write something like that, or there's so many directions you could go with that, really. But
yeah, I mean, I would love to do something maybe like like I like hedge knights. I've always said, like,
yeah,
if I had any wish, throw me in Westeros, give me a horse. I'm going over to the Riverlands. I'm gonna be a hedge knight, I'm gonna beat down some wildlings. It's gonna be fun. That's always been my thing, is like traveling the land. I'm a big fan of traveling fantasy and the good old fashioned quest.
oh,
And
I love it. Yeah, I love
yeah.
it too. Yeah.
Tanner says, "Hey guys, just want to pop in and support Jimmy. Do your limited Philip impression you were telling me about."
Oh, okay. Well,
I'm trying to remember. Do I have a Philip? Do I? I think Hobbit Hole did a very nice
oh
video.
my goodness, Hobbit Hole. Yeah, Hobbit Hole books. So that's Matt.
Yes.
He did a very interesting impression of yours truly.
And then he mentioned me, and I was like,
Yeah,
it's weird hearing your name mentioned. You know what I mean? You're like, whoa, what?
yeah. That what did he say? That Jimmy Nuts. He's nuts or something.
Yeah, yeah. And then you've been calling me the Nutmeister, which a lot of my patrons are now calling me. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
I'm
Yeah,
the
I love
Meister of
it.
nuts. So that's
The
interesting.
Nutmeister. We
The nut.
gotta make that stick, guys. Everybody,
Let's
we gotta
not.
make that stick. So
Oh
everybody
no.
over the next week, just call Jimmy the Nutmeister, please.
I
So
think it's better than the Nut God, which I don't know where that came from or why that's a thing. But I see people saying they're going to commune with the Nut God, and I'm just like, What's my
Yeah.
life? Benjamin said, what did you say? It's challenging to understand or keep up with, Jimmy? He's talking about the Dandelion Dynasty. It is epic fantasy. So yes, there's a ton of names, ton of places, but the glossary is very, very good. So I think if you've read other epic fantasy, which I know you have, Benjamin, you'll be totally fine.
See, I read that question as, is it hard to keep up with Jimmy? Because you put a comma there and then it would change the meaning, right? So
yes, it would.
Yeah, and I don't know how to answer that one.
See, and that is your talent as a writer coming out, right? Just changing one thing in a sentence changes the whole meaning.
That's part of the creative process, right?
That's right. Sir Jimmy. Yeah, I am.
Jimmy the Nutmeister.
Oh, no. I'm Ben the Knee whenever I do. I've done a couple episodes with Ben the Knee whenever one of the guys are out or they invite me on or something. And I've always been Sir Jimmy of House Nuts over there. And
Nice.
I've always liked that title, but Nutmeister's not the worst.
Yeah.
Nutmeister asked Philip what his favorite hairstyle is.
My favorite hairstyle was the one you wore during the charity Jeopardy.
Wait, me?
You, yeah.
My hairstyle?
You had a clip during one of the
my gothic look.
Yeah. It wasn't slicked back. It was kind of all down in your face, and it was very,
people didn't realize how long my hair was.
Very noir or something. Yeah, very good. Yeah, I have no idea. I just sort of do this and hope that nothing is poking out too much, and then the edgelord. That's it. That's the one. Yeah.
Yes, Alan would say I need to lean to be an edgelord.
Huh.
You know how many times I did that take though, and I kept coming up with every time I did a new poem. Like I read that stupid poem. I would change it every time, and I did like 6 takes. So somewhere on a piece of paper over here, there's a bunch of poems.
Nice. Poems are I love poems. So funniest hairstyle. I do have one character who has kind of the do you guys know the Three Stooges?
Yes.
Okay, so Larry, right?
Mm-hmm.
I've got a character with a hairdo like Larry's, which is to say he's bald on top and he has curly hair that sort of pokes out on the sides. But yeah.
That's awesome. I'm always a big fan of the.
That's actually that's one of the characters that AP renamed when he was going over the book. So,
can you tell us the original name?
Well, the original name, and this is a genuine Anglo-Saxon name, is Bagsack. B-A-G. Yeah. It's B-A-G-S-A-C. Bagsack. It's a real name.
You can get away with a lot, Philip.
I did not make that up. It's a real name, and it's perfect for the character. What AP renamed it, I suppose you can imagine. Yeah.
Caesar 2K, thank you so much for the 5 spot, my friend. The super sticker, which is a cool looking fox on actual YouTube. StreamYard doesn't show it up on the stream, but I see it in the chat. It looks pretty cute. That's cool. I don't know if you could tell us this, and I know a lot of people were asking earlier, but like, can you give us a little bit of the premise, or is that
of the books? Is that
off limits?
What can I say? Let's see. Well, my favorite 3 sentence summary of the trilogy, which maybe I don't know if you've heard this thing or not, but is Beowulf meets Buddhism.
What?
Beowulf meets Buddhism. That's my 3-word summary of the entire trilogy. Which I love it. Which is to say, a lot of the inspiration for the trilogy obviously comes from my engagement with Old English and Old Norse and that sort of thing. A lot of it also comes from, as I said before, my travels and my time not only in Wales, but also in Nepal. Yeah. And encountering different life philosophies over there. I mean, I'm writing about the context in the trilogy is that there is a religious war going on. And I think for me, a lot of it is, I hope this doesn't sound, it's a story. So it has, I think, a good amount of action in it. Ed and Will said the pacing was good, so I'm going to trust their judgment. But for me, there also is where it stems from is a lot of thinking about the ways in which we make sense of death. You know, how do we make sense of death, and how different religions and philosophies grapple with that. And so that's at the heart of what I'm doing, I think, in some ways. When I look back and I think, okay, yeah, I'm really, obviously in a lot of literature, we think about mortality and that sort of thing. So that's sort of an underlying thing, is the fleetingness of life, right? There's a wonderful story in the Venerable Beta's account of the conversion of the Northumbrians to Christianity way back when. So this is an Anglo-Saxon king, Edwin, who was approached by a Christian missionary, and they were pagans. And the missionary explained about what's the religion all about and all that. And Edwin listened along with his counselors. And then he said to the missionary, okay, thanks very much. You can step out while I talk with my boys here about, what do they think about this newfangled religion here? And so everybody gave these different opinions on it. And one of his thanes, one of his followers, said something like this: life is like, it's like this. We're all sitting around in the mead hall together around the fire pit. And the bard is telling one of the old tales, bringing to life the deeds of our ancestors. And outside it's dark, it's night, and it's winter, and it's hailing. But inside we have the comfort of the fire and each other's company. And in one end of the hall, there flies a sparrow through one of the windows. You had to have vents for these meat halls to let all the smoke out, right? So in one end of the hall flies a sparrow, and it flits straight through the hall and out the other end, out the window again. And he said, that's life. We're here for this moment in the light. What comes before is darkness. We don't know what it is. And what comes after is darkness. We don't know what it is. But as long as we're here together, in this moment of fellowship, we make the most of it. So that kind of thing, that kind of sentiment about life's fleetingness is something that comes up a lot in Old English poetry and in Old Norse. And, they had that whole thing about Ragnarok and the world ending and all of that.
Right.
So they had this recognition that everything is temporary, everything is fleeting. And that was sort of the impetus for a lot of what they did, the idea of, doing great deeds to achieve glory, so the bards would sing about you and that sort of thing. So I think about that, that's one response to mortality. And the same thing you'll find in like Buddhism, a very different way of dealing with this fleetingness, but nevertheless, it's a real big part of Buddhism is, okay, life is temporary. Right. And there's a recognition in Buddhist philosophy that everything is fleeting. The response is different. It isn't go out and do great deeds and win, get fame and all that. That's not what Buddhist monks are all about. But they're wrestling with the same thing. They're wrestling with mortality. And so their response is more like, well, first of all, recognize that, yes, there's suffering in life, but also recognize your own fleetingness, but also recognize that you're connected to everyone around you. You're part of everything around you. And that idea of connection is really at the heart of Buddhism as well. The recognition of oneself as the idea that you're somehow this individual, this ego, and separate from everything else is an illusion. You're part of the life force all around you. You always have been. The greatest metaphor I've ever heard for this, it was something I read in a book by Thich Nhat Hanh called The Heart of the Buddhist Teaching. And, there's this wonderful metaphor that he has of the individual as a wave, right, on the ocean. And you think of yourself as an individual, separate, right? You're this little happy wave. But actually, you're part of the water, really, and you always have been, and you're about to return to it. And maybe you don't know it, but you are. So, and as AP says in the chat, there's also a lot of cool action and a lot of magic stuff. So there's fireballs and all that too, which there's big beasties and all that good stuff too. There's a lot of fighting and action. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what you just described sounds like everything I like out of a book, to be honest with you. And I think, you know, posing that question of what is life and where does it go, and how we react to that. I mean, that is a lot of the times where the lines are drawn in the sand between different types of people, and in different places in the world. So being able to explore that in a story, I think, is going to lead to some pretty compelling plot points. I'm excited, man. I really am. That has me pretty fired up. I was already fired up, but now I'm more fired up.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. I mean, I'm excited, and I think it's a good story. And I feel like it's at a point now where it's what I want it to be, and I hope other people will enjoy it. So,
I mean, it's
I'm
great.
very pleased with the response so far from people like Ed and Will and Mark Lawrence and AP as well, obviously. So yeah.
It's crazy to think, I mean, if you go out and get this thing published and, you end up landing a big deal and you end up on New York Times I mean, I know we don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but if you think about these things, you're like, adaptation down the road, and it's like one day I'll be sitting here going, remember when Phlip used to talk to me before he got really successful?
Oh, no. First of all, what I consider success is just being able to write, and to publish something. It would be fantastic.
Yes.
So, and I don't think you don't become an author to to become not only wealthy but famous. It's not something that I don't think my head will swell too much.
No, the only thing that would change is I don't know if I could steal 2 hours from you on a Friday night so often, because a lot of people will be wanting hours of your time at that point.
Well, I will be spending time with you, Jimmy. I can promise you that.
I appreciate it, man.
Sure.
And Brenej says, I want to thank you both for all you do. Sometimes I've had hard days or stress days, and putting on a Chase or Nuts videos is always exciting and relaxing, even if that doesn't really make sense. Thanks. It makes perfect sense. And I take that as one of the highest compliments that I can get, to be honest. So thank you.
I would agree with that. And I'm very gratified to hear it. So thank you. Yeah.
Yes. Pablo says, Jimmy, do you think learning the code affect your writing style? Phlip, do you think that BookTube is shaping the way you teach?
Oh, 100%. Absolutely. Thank you, Pablo. That's a brilliant question. And the answer is, I've thought about this many times. I've even talked about it a little bit here and there, but absolutely, yes. It has made me a better teacher. No doubt. Not just because I've had the tremendous privilege of talking to people like Jimmy and all of our other friends out here. I won't even start naming them all because I'll leave out people. But it's a privilege to talk to these people and learn from them. But also, I think I became more comfortable. Somehow, maybe sounds weird, but making videos made me think about how I think about storytelling even more.
Yeah.
And so I feel like it enriched my teaching as well.
That's awesome. Yeah. I think learning to code would affect me, not in my writing style, but the way I approach writing. And that is basically also the way I learned to become a professional wrestler, and the way I learned to work out is borderline obsession, and then making it a habit.
Yep. Habit. Yeah.
I like this question a lot. Noelle says, random question, Phlip, what is your youngest daughter reading? I love the reviews you guys do together.
Oh, I had so much fun making those. Yeah. And I don't know if she'll make any with me now, because she's at the young teenage years when, before she was a bit younger, and perhaps a little more willing. And now it's a little embarrassing to be in videos with Dad, I guess. So, but yeah, I'm not sure, she's been reading something for school. Scythe, I think, is something she read recently.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure it's something she had read on her own already, but I think it was assigned at school. And what else? She's always reading something or other. But yeah.
I mean, that's great. There's a lot of kids that don't read at all. So
yeah. No, we read to them from the moment they were out of the womb. Thanks, AP. Yeah.
I mean, dude, only thing I can think about is, whenever or if I ever have a kid, is like being able to read them The Hobbit. Like that's the bar for Like once we get that, we're good. I have a niece, and I'm just like, is she old enough? They're like, James, she's 9 months. I'm like, yeah, but is she old enough
Oh
yet?
no. She's old enough. Just I have pictures of me reading to my babies when they were younger than that, and just like I'm reading Winnie the Pooh, because it's fun. So and it starts with them just sort of wanting to imitate that, and then they're actually finding the words, and then it's so miraculous and wonderful to
That's
read with
awesome.
kids. I would say go for it. If you want to read to your niece or nephew, and I don't care if it's 7 months or 7 days, go for it.
I don't know why, but just getting a good old Hobbit, maybe getting an illustrated edition. It's just
Yeah.
something that I look forward to.
Yep.
Alan's back from Denver. Alan, you
All
missed all
right.
my praise I heaped upon you earlier. That's a shame.
Yeah, Alan, I'm sorry. I sort of talked a little bit about you earlier. I hope it's okay. But I didn't tell anybody where to find the video or anything like that. But I did say that I saw that you are a brilliant actor, and we talked about an Iliad a wee bit. So,
Yes, we had nothing but good things to say.
and how compelling. How long are they? Oh, that's a good question. So I should be able to tell you the word count, but I don't remember exactly off the top of my head. But I can say that as a Word document, the first book is about 600 pages. The second book is about 740 pages. And the third book is 850 or so pages. That's as a double-spaced Word document. So,
Right.
yeah, so they're not huge. They're not going to be 1,000-page monstrosities, but they're fat enough. They're pretty standard fantasy length, I think. Yeah, definitely, Alan. You bet, for sure.
So we got some reasonable sized chunkers to look forward to.
I think reasonable size. Yeah. So and then they get a little bit longer as each goes. The fourth one is actually a bit shorter. The sequel, the standalone. So, oh my goodness, you might want to wait till a little older than 5.
One of the best parts of being a parent is getting to share books with them. My daughter's 14 now, and we read the same books all the time. That's awesome.
Oh, that's beautiful. I love that. Yeah.
AP says, when my godson was a baby and couldn't sleep, I would read him stuff from my PhD thesis. It helped knock him right out.
Oh, no.
Christian says Jimmy's going to dust off Gardens of the Moon once his child's where I'm like, listen, so there's this guy with the fiddle on his back, right? And there's a weather vane.
Yeah. There's some great fantasy. Oh, it was such a pleasure. I told everybody, Alan, that I
want to see it.
Actually got chills when I saw that opening recitation, and the rest of the play. I was just absolutely hooked. I mean, it was such a brilliant performance. It's a great play too. It's a play that's about, if I could just say a word about an Iliad. Obviously, that's an allusion to Homer and the Iliad, the Odyssey, all that, but it is really a play about the trauma of war and the effects that it has on particularly the people who are in it, but the people who witness it, who suffer from it, et cetera, et cetera. It's just a brilliant play, which I hadn't read or seen before. So it was very special to watch Alan do that. I hope, Alan, you don't mind me saying all this, and I do actually I said to Alan, I think it'd be really cool if you wouldn't mind to share that with people on BookTube.
Yeah.
So I think people would like that.
We could also maybe see Alan's acting performance if he would pony up and do some D&D on BookTube, right?
Yeah, that would. I'm sure he'd be brilliant at it. Yeah.
Connor says, my dad encouraged me to pick up his Shannara books when I showed interest, even though I wasn't ready for epic fantasy. Truly inspired my passion for fantasy. I hope to do that with my future kids.
That's a great story. I love it. Yeah, that's
and
great.
My mother says Mama Nuts read Story to Jimmy when he was baby.
Oh. I would love to see a picture of that. That would be something special. Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah, that's why I have all these books. I keep telling, my kids will read them one day. That's why I continue to grow my my library that,
A good excuse. I like it. Yeah. It almost makes you seem altruistic. Yeah.
Almost. Alice says, Jimmy, my life is consumed by children who feed on my life.
Like leeches, huh, Alan?
I've
They're like
heard this.
leeches. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Philip, I want to thank you, man, for coming on. I don't want to take too much more of your Friday night. We've talked for so many hours over so many days and different topics, but I feel like we always have something new to say to one another, and I always look forward to conversating with you, and getting to chat and to hang out. And it was honestly very special to meet you down in Orlando. And I hope that it's
Likewise.
not the last time. I hope that we can do it in person, chatting with Nuts, here in the near future.
I think that's a realistic possibility, Jimmy, because you and I live, I would say, under 4 hours drive from each other. So,
Yes, I'm going to be up your way. I hope possibly this summer. So,
ooh,
so
okay.
yes, I'll be with the wife, and I would love to run into you if
I
I come
think
up
we can
that way.
arrange that running in.
It'd be a very good vlog.
Oh, it would be so much fun.
It
Yeah.
would. We can go to find some bookstores.
We can find, oh, there are bookstores. I have to find a gym or something for you, I guess, right?
Yeah, I'll just pick you up. Pick you up above my.
You could probably easily bench press me, I guess. Yeah,
Yeah,
that'd
definitely.
be easy.
Yeah, you're a trim guy.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for coming on, my friend. I know that your time is very precious, and to do it on a Friday night and to pull you away from the family, I always really appreciate that. So,
Well, Jimmy, I want to thank you because I have said it before, but I don't mind repeating myself. Everybody probably knows that by now. But I really appreciate how skilled you are at being a community builder here on our corner of BookTube. It's not just a skill. I think you have to have a certain type of empathy to do that, and that is something I see in you, and I really appreciate. It's a beautiful thing, and I thank you for it and allowing me to be part of this.
well, the only way it works is if people agree to come on. So, you're a big part of it. You've always have been, and chat, you're also a big part of it. That's what makes this different,
Yeah.
and that's what I like. The challenge of this is doing it live and getting you guys involved, and getting to hear your questions and your thoughts as we go through this, and it's kind of fun managing the chaos, and it keeps getting bigger. There's more and more people, which I love to see. So
Yeah, it's fantastic. Thank you, Chad. Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Yep, I'm privileged to be a part of the community. I'm privileged to have friends like you, Philip, and I'm very fortunate that people tune in every other Friday. And in 2 weeks we'll be back again for another episode of Chatting with Nuts, and we're quickly approaching 30 episodes, which is insanity.
Wow.
It's a lot of hours. It's a lot of hours.
Yeah, even just the hours with Alan alone are like 200 or something, right?
Yeah, it's like 2 seasons of a television show. I mean, it's insane. Oh, and spam bots just in time.
Oh wow. Okay.
Perfect. Block. All right, I think they're gone. All right. Well, everyone, thank you again so much for coming and checking out the stream. If you're a first-time viewer and you haven't seen Philip, his channel is linked down in the description. Of course, go and check out his videos if you want to learn something, and also see what I think is going to be one of the biggest authors in the next few years, and that will be Philip whenever he gets published very, very soon. So, also, Philip, thanks for being so transparent. I know a lot of people writing is a very personal thing, so for you to talk about that so candidly is very much appreciated.
Yeah, no, I'm grateful to be able to share that journey here with everybody. That makes it extra special for me right now. So thank you for listening to me. I hope I wasn't boring.
No, not at all. I learned a lot, and I'm cheering for you, dude. I'm cheering for you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Hell yeah, man. All right, everyone. Well, until I see you next time, be good, be safe. Oh, and remember to hit like and subscribe as well. The YouTube stuff. But until I see you then, remember to always keep turning the page.